Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and welcome back to the Major League Baseball edition of Ron's Rundown. We're to go over every single baseball game every day in the regular season and postseason, starting right here on opening day, March 27th, 2025. This is episode 1 of season number 4. I can't believe it's been 4 seasons of Ron's Rundown. I thank all of you for your support over the years, and thank you for coming back and watching the rundown here at the Pick Dawgz YouTube channel this season. Now, if you like this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. Put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, the games I love the most in baseball and other sports, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. I've got my Major League Baseball All Access Season Pass up on the website right now. Last year, we crushed the books with our premium selections in Major League Baseball. That package is going to get you every money line, total, player prop I release in Major League Baseball in the regular season and postseason. So check it out at Pick Dawgz Premium. There's also a link in the description. Alrighty, here we go. It's opening day. We've got 14 games on the board. Let's start it strong. Here are the games for Thursday in Major League Baseball. First up, the Milwaukee Brewers and the New York Yankees. They will be the first game of the 2025 season. 3 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Freddie Peralta and Carlos Rodon are the projected starters. And the Yankees are a pretty sizable favorite in this game, even though their expectations for Yankee fans and outside pundits alike are not as high as they were going into last year. Juan Soto going to the Mets is a big part of that, but also Garrett Cole being out for the season with Tommy John surgery and Luis Gil being out for what looks like a couple of months. Not a great start to the Yankees season, but Carlos Rodon, even though he's not been a great starter 2 seasons in recent years, and he had a mixed results spring training, can't deny the Yankees have been great on opening day recently. They're 6-1 in the last 7 opening days, and they're playing at Yankee Stadium. I like their chances to pick up the win. I don't love the price, obviously, at right around -150, -155. And Freddie Peralta, he put together a decent spring himself, but you look at his last game of spring training, he got crushed. I mean, you look at that outing, 3 1/3 innings of 2 home run, 10 earned run baseball, of 4 walks to go with it. Yes, the Yankees lineup is not going to be the same without Juan Soto, but picking up guys like Bellinger and Paul Goldschmidt still help out what is one of the best lineups in the American League with Aaron Judge in the heart of it. So I think the Yankees are going to be fine this season. A lot of people are saying they might miss the playoffs. I'm not sure I'd go that far. I think it's going to be a tough division. It's a very, very loaded division, but I think the Yankees start the season off with a win. I think they have the better bullpen. The starting pitching matchup's kind of even in my opinion, and the much stronger lineup, especially towards the back end. So I'm going to go with the Yankees on the money line at Yankee Stadium. Next up, it's the Baltimore Orioles taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. We got Jose Barrios and Zach Eflin on the mound in this game. Jose Barrios has been the opening day starter for the Blue Jays the last couple of years. In 2023, he got crushed against KC, but last year against Tampa Bay on opening day, a win and a quality start. In fact, the Blue Jays went 5-0 in Barrios' first 5 starts, so he was a fast starter last year. I mean, the month of April, he went 37 2/3 with a 1.19 ERA. He pitched pretty well in spring training this season. Really nothing for me to believe he's not going to have a decent outing in this one. He did a good job last year keeping the ball on the ground, limiting the home run ball. He only gave up 2 home runs in about 20 innings of work in spring training. It's exactly where he wants to be. The control was good enough, and his last outing of the spring against a tough Phillies lineup, 5 1/3, 1 run, 5 strikeouts. So I think Barrios pitches pretty well. I mean, the Orioles lineup is very top-heavy in my opinion, especially with Anthony Santander out of the lineup now this year. I think that Baltimore takes a step back a little bit this season, at least in the regular season. I mentioned in my season win total video, I like them under their win total. Right now, I think it's 87.5. I actually got it at 90.5 a little bit ago. But when you look at Zach Eflin, I think he's a great option in a rotation, but not necessarily a number 1 for most teams. And spring training, he pitched pretty well, but then did have his moments where he struggled with the base runners. At an outing against Philadelphia where he went 4 innings, 5 total runs, 6 base hits. So I do think the Blue Jays can get to him. I think this is an improved Blue Jays lineup and overall an improved Blue Jays team. I like their chances for the win in this game at a decent price. Right now, basically a pick 'em price with the home team. Give me Toronto in this one on the money line. Next up, we'll go to the National League East as Zach Wheeler and the Philadelphia Phillies take on Mackenzie Gore and the Washington Nationals. Now, with Wheeler on the mound and the fact that Gore has really struggled against the Phillies in his career, the Phillies are a big favorite in this game. But I will say, Gore did face the Phillies in his final regular season start in 2024, and actually had one of his best starts of the season, certainly one of his best starts against Philadelphia. Maybe he finally cracked the code with the Phillies and he can improve on those numbers, and build on that last start into 2025. And, he pitched really, really well in spring training. So I do think Gore is going to be a good option in this Nationals rotation. And overall, I think Washington's going to be, last year we mentioned that they were a profitable team. I think that's going to be the case this year as well. I don't expect them to have a winning record or make the playoffs, but I do think they'll be pretty, strong in the underdog role, getting plus money prices like this. And they're going to be a team we can back, certain spots. I think this is going to be one of them, at least in the first 5 innings. I think the Nationals have a chance to win this game overall, but that bullpen is still pretty, not so great. I would say the Phillies have a big advantage with their bullpen. So I'm going to take the Nationals in the first 5. I'll sprinkle a little bit on the full game as well, but I think Washington competes in this one. Zach Wheeler didn't have his best spring. It wasn't his worst either, but I think the Nationals could find a few runs on him. This is a really talented, underrated, young lineup that the Nationals are providing this year. I'm going to go Washington in the first 5 innings, plus a half a run, and on the money line. Next up, we'll see the Boston Red Sox taking on the Texas Rangers. We got Garrett Crochet and Nathan Eovaldi on the mound. These are two teams that a lot of people are looking at. They missed the playoffs last year, but teams that a lot of people like to make the playoffs in 2025. I can't, disagree with that. I mean, the Rangers lineup had a really underwhelming season last year, but still a lot of talent in that lineup. The rotation's healthier. Hopefully Jacob deGrom can stay on the field for, hopefully the entire season. Hasn't been the case the last few years, but I think the Rangers are improved almost everywhere. The bullpen a little bit shaky still on paper, while the Red Sox, they made some big moves in the offseason, including this one in picking up an ace-level starter in Garrett Crochet. You add Alex Bregman in the lineup. This is a pretty solid Red Sox team. I like the Red Sox in this game at a basically coin flip, pick 'em price. Garrett Crochet was outstanding in spring training, racked up the strikeouts, limited sharp contact. He should pitch well, not just in this game, but overall this year. Nathan Eovaldi against his former team, I didn't really love what I saw from him in spring training. I think the Red Sox lineup provides a lot of trouble for him in this one, and I think the Red Sox also have the better bullpen in this game, so I trust them early and late. Give me the Red Sox in this one on the money line. Next up, we have the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the Miami Marlins. We're going to see Paul Skeens and Sandy Alcantara on the mound. The Marlins could very well be the worst team in baseball this year. They're going to be fighting with the White Sox, I think, for the the weakest record in the league. But still doesn't mean, I could still see the Marlins winning 55 plus games, 55, 60 games, and that's 50 to 60 opportunities to cash with the Marlins at plus money prices, because they're not going to be favored in any games other than home games against maybe the White Sox, maybe the Angels at times. But this is a situation where, yes, Paul Skeens is going to be a Cy Young level starter in 2025. He had a great spring. He was the Rookie of the Year last year, and if he pitched the entire season, he very well could have won the Cy Young over Chris Sale. But it's also a situation where the Pittsburgh Pirates are rolling out what looks like the projected lineup: Endy Rodriguez, Nick Gonzalez, Ke'Bryan Hayes, and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa as your 6 through 9 hitters in the lineup. This is still not a great Pirates lineup. It's still not a bullpen that I love, so I wouldn't want to be laying minus 155 with the Pirates in this game when you're only going to get about 5-6 innings of Paul Skeens up against Sandy Alcantara, who pitched really well in spring training, looked like vintage Sandy, keeping the ball on the ground, not necessarily missing a lot of bats, but getting those ground ball outs and limiting the sharp contact. I think the Marlins are a live dog at a very solid price in this one. I'm going to take a shot here with the Miami Marlins on the money line. Next up, we have the Cincinnati Reds taking on the San Francisco Giants. We got Logan Webb and Hunter Green on the mound in this one. Now, this is an interesting game, and these are two interesting teams because I could see them finishing really anywhere in the standings by the end of the season. They're just so, there's a lot of question marks for these two teams. I think talent-wise, they have enough to make a run in both of their playoff races. I don't think San Francisco has much of a chance in the NL West division, but I could see the Giants winning enough games to make the playoffs as a wild card, and Cincinnati in a wide-open NL Central could very well win that division. But the question marks are there for both teams. For Cincinnati, it's more with the pitching. The rotation, Hunter Green, can he continue to be that number one guy, be an ace-level stopper in the rotation? I'm not so sure. I do expect some regression this year for Hunter Green. Can Brady Singer, the newly acquired starter from Kansas City in that Jonathan India trade, be the number two that the Reds need? And I'm not sure I love the fit at Great American Ballpark. So while I think the Reds lineup is going to win them a lot of games by themselves at a very hitter-friendly park, that pitching staff does concern me a little bit. We'll see if they make some moves at the deadline. But for San Francisco, I think this is a lineup that is pretty solid. I mean, you talk about in the NL West a lot about the Dodgers, and rightfully so, the Diamondbacks, even the Padres. But San Francisco's put together a pretty solid team. I think the rotation's okay on paper as well. A lot of veterans, Justin Verlander, Robbie Ray. We'll see if Jordan Hicks can continue to be, the issue for him was the workload as a starter, his first full year as a starting pitcher. But Logan Webb's a really good number one. The lineup looks pretty strong. You add in Willy Adames. I think the Giants are going to win some games this year, and I like their chances in this one as well. I trust Logan Webb more as a starter on opening day than I do Hunter Green. I'm going to go with San Francisco on the money line, and I think San Francisco has put together a solid season. Next up, we have the Los Angeles Angels taking on the Chicago White Sox. This one's also going to be 4:10 Eastern. Yusei Kikuchi and Sean Burke are your starters. Now, the Angels of all teams are a big favorite on the road in this game, and we're going to see the White Sox as a big dog very often this season. I think they're going to be historically bad, just as they were last year. Just, this is a rebuilding season for Chicago. The lineup's not great. The rotation's even worse. The bullpen is also one of the weakest in the league, if not the worst on paper. So I do expect the Angels to walk away with the win in this one. The question is, do you want to lay minus 160 with the Angels right now? They are a team that's got a lot of question marks. Mike Trout is healthy, ready to go for opening day. Hopefully he can stay on the field. Kikuchi pitched well in spring training. I think he's a good option in that rotation. The rest of the rotation, not my favorite. Don't love that bullpen either. But I think the Angels score enough in this game to cover the run line. Sean Burke, not a great number one option in my opinion. I do think the Angels get to him for add a few runs on the bullpen. I don't think it's going to be a great season for the Angels this year, but I think they'll take advantage of the matchup here with Chicago. So give me the Angels on the run line on the road. Next up, we have the Guardians and the Royals. Tanner Bybee and Cole Ragans are your starters. Now, the expectations for KC are pretty high, and it makes sense. I mean, this was a team that made it to the ALCS last year out of nowhere. They missed the postseason the previous year with less than 70 wins. And, Bobby Witt Jr. is one of the best players in baseball. They have a great rotation on paper with a Cy Young finalist in Seth Lugo, Cole Ragans here, and Michael Wacha as well. But I do think that the Royals do take a little bit of a step back this season because, not necessarily because they're not a good team, but the Central is just a really competitive division on paper, in my opinion. The Guardians are going to be just as competitive as they usually are with one of the best bullpens in baseball and a really well-managed, well-run franchise. The fact that the Twins are healthy right now, Royce Lewis is banged up, but the Twins on paper are still a very talented team. The rotation's strong, another great bullpen, solid lineup. They're going to win more games in 2024, in my opinion. And the Tigers, of course, with the second half surge last year, making it to the postseason out of nowhere. This is going to be a tough division. All these teams should be able to rack up the wins on the White Sox, but I think against each other, it's going to be a lot of splitting series. And this is a game where I just wouldn't want to be laying odds with KC when you got Tanner Bybee on the other side, who pitched really well in spring training. Cole Ragans was a little bit shaky in spring, and he's not been great against the Guardians recently. You look at the couple of starts last year. The Guardians are such a tough lineup because they work pitch counts, they limit strikeouts. That's not great news for a starter like Ragans, who really relies on those missed bats, and I think he's not going to be very efficient in this game. I don't expect him to go more than 4 or 5 innings, and then it's all Guardians for me in terms of the advantage because they have one of the best bullpens in baseball, certainly a better bullpen in this matchup. And while I like this Royals top half of the lineup with Bobby Witt, I think the bottom half is pretty weak, and I think the Guardians take advantage of it. At plus money, I got to take Cleveland this one on the money line. Next up, we have the New York Mets and the Houston Astros. Clay Holmes and Framber Valdez are your starters. Now, I'm not sure how long or how many innings the Mets give Clay Holmes as a starter this year, but he looked really strong in spring training. I mean, he pitched really well in the spring as a starter. I think he pitches well in this game, and for the first few months at the very least for the Mets, and that may be all they need because right now, Kodai Senga should be available towards the end of this first rotation, probably the 5th man in the rotation, but he has been a little bit injury prone in the last couple of years. Frankie Montas, of course, is going to be out for a little bit. Sean Manaea, same thing. So the Mets really need some top-end starters, and Clay Holmes is the guy they're looking for now on opening day. I think Holmes pitches well in this game. I think towards the 100-inning mark, it gets a little bit murky for a guy like Holmes in his first full season as a starter, but I think the Mets win this game. I think Framber Valdez is a good option for Houston, of course. I mean, he's an ace-level starter in the league, but he did struggle a bit with the Mets last year. And in spring training, I wasn't overly impressed with Framber's work. Now, this is a situation where I'm actually pretty high on the Astros this year, and I'm actually pretty low on the Mets overall this season in terms of their season win total projection. I think the Astros, it takes them a little bit to get going this season, kind of similar to last year where they had a big losing record and then all of a sudden ended up winning the division. I could see the Astros struggling a bit with their new look lineup and some of the new players in the field. Of course, Jose Altuve struggling a bit in left field defensively. But for me, I'm just going to take the plus money on the Mets in this one. I think they're just a more opening day ready team than the Astros, and I like their chances to pick up the win in this one. Next up, we have the Atlanta Braves taking on the San Diego Padres. This one is also 4:10 Eastern. This could be my least favorite game on the board betting-wise. Certainly a great game entertainment-wise, but for me, I think it's a coin flip, and if that's the case, I'm going to take the home team getting plus money on the money line. I think both of these starting pitching options are good. Both had solid spring trainings. Of course, Chris Sale's the reigning Cy Young winner. I don't think he'll be able to put together those types of numbers this year, but still be an ace-level starter. Michael King, I think, is one of the more underrated starting pitchers in baseball. I think he has a good outing. I like both of these bullpens. I think they're similar in terms of strength. The lineups, I would give the slight advantage to Atlanta, but I still think San Diego is going to be competitive there. This should be a great game, a competitive series. Of course, a rematch from last year's postseason. I think the Padres take this one in a close one. Give me San Diego on the money line. Next up, the Minnesota Twins and the St. Louis Cardinals. This one's the last 4 p.m. Eastern game. It's going to be Pablo Lopez and Sonny Gray. I've mentioned a few times on the morning shows, on my video, the futures video, I like the Twins this year. This is a team that if they stay healthy, and that is a big if, they've got a lot of guys that like Byron Buxton, Royce Lewis, Carlos Correa, that have been injured what seems like every season the last few years. But if they can stay relatively healthy, this is a really, really talented Twins team. I think the sky's the limit for Minnesota. Great rotation, one of the best 1-2-3 punches out of all the starting pitching rotations in baseball. Excellent bullpen. I mean, almost every starter upper 90s with their fastball. Duran, a little bit of a down year, last couple of years, still a great closing pitching option for Minnesota. I think the Twins win a lot of games this year. I think they go over their win total. I think they win the AL Central. And I like them to start the season with a win in this one as well. Sonny Gray really struggled in spring training, got crushed in spring. Pablo Lopez, his numbers weren't the best on paper, but the thing for me, he limited the sharp contact. Only 2 home runs given up in all of spring training. It's really important for Lopez. He also was able to miss some bats, earn those strikeouts. And I think the Twins have the advantage with the lineup, the starter, and the bullpen. At a pick-em price, I'm going to take Minnesota on the money line. Next up, the Detroit Tigers taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers. Tarek Skubal and Blake Snell are your starters. Now, I think the Dodgers run away with the NL West this season. I mentioned that with the season video, the win total video. This is just a Dodgers team that obviously they're already 2-0, but they just have so much talent. I mean, you take the World Series champion that pretty much ran away with the World Series. I mean, they were dominant in the postseason, almost a sweep in the World Series over a very good Yankees team. You take that same team, you add a couple of ace-level starters in Roki Sasaki and Blake Snell, and then you add a couple of depth pieces like Michael Conforto on the bench and Kirby Yates in the bullpen. I mean, I just don't see how the Dodgers don't just absolutely run away with this division, win 100-plus games, and are basically in the World Series yet again in 2025. But with that being said, we do fade Blake Snell early season here on the Rundown. We've done that since we started the Rundown in 2022. Blake Snell early season, just no bueno. He is a slow starter. He last year mentioned that not having spring training really affected his game early on. I definitely agree with that, but he only had 2 spring training outings this season. He only pitched twice in spring training, and his last outing was not a great one in spring. So I think he's a slow starter yet again. I think the Dodgers are a little bit overpriced because they're at home with Blake Snell on the mound. They're already 2-0. I think Tarek Skubal, not much needs to be said. I mean, a Cy Young level starter. He was dominant last year. I think Detroit takes a little bit of a step back, similar to Kansas City this season. But I think the Tigers, the value is there for them, and at least in the first 5. I think the Dodgers have a big-time bullpen advantage, but give me Detroit in the first 5 innings on the money line. Next up, the Chicago Cubs taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Justin Steele and Zach Gallen are your starters. We're going to take the first total of the season in this one. Give me the over and Cubs Diamondbacks at a hitter-friendly ballpark like Chase Field. Justin Steele did not pitch well in spring training. He carried it over with a not-so-great first outing of the regular season against the Dodgers in the Tokyo series. In that game, he gave up 5 runs, 2 home runs, and only 4 innings of work, and a 4-to-7 ground ball to fly ball ratio for a ground ball specialist pitch to contact guy. That's not what you want to see early this season. The Diamondbacks last year were able to get the steal for a few runs in the one outing they faced them. It was 4 2/3, 5 runs, 9 base hits, and Diamondback win. And overall last year, Diamondbacks were very competitive against lefties, one of the lowest strikeout rates in baseball, high walk rate, high OPS. So I think the Diamondbacks get the steal, and the Cubs bullpen, which was also not great in that Tokyo series. And then you look on the other side, Zach Gallen, 5 walks in his last 6 1/3 in spring. I think the control's an issue for him early this season. I think the Cubs, the fact that they were able to get some regular season at-bats, helps them a little bit in this game offensively. Gave me the over at Chase Field between the Cubs and Diamondbacks. And the final game we're going to see for the Thursday card in Major League Baseball, it's the Athletics and the Mariners. This one is 10:10 Eastern. We got Luis Severino making his A's debut, Logan Gilbert going for the Mariners. Just a warning in advance, I might say Oakland in this video or in the future for these videos. I mean, I'm used to seeing the Oakland Athletics. It's so crazy to see the abbreviation for the A's now ATH instead of OAK. But I'll get used to it at some point. Give me some grace period here with the new team. But nonetheless, I think Athletics are a solid team this year. I think they're a team that's going to be able to compete a little bit more. I don't think they have a winning season. I don't think they make the playoffs, but I think they go over their win total, and I think that they win this game. I like their chances at plus money. Logan Gilbert was giving up a ton of sharp contact in spring training. Now, this is a great Mariners rotation. Could be the best in baseball, especially when George Kirby returns, and the bullpen's also very strong. But on paper, it's almost the same lineup they rolled out last year. And Seattle really struggled offensively in 2024. They were one of the weaker lineups in baseball, just not scoring runs consistently. I think Severino, who pitched well in spring training, puts together 4 or 5 decent innings. I think the A's, especially the top half of the lineup, Brent Rooker, Shea Langeliers, guys that can hit 30-plus home runs, should be able to get to Gilbert for a couple of runs. And in a low-scoring game in a pitcher-friendly ballpark, I think the value's there with the Athletics, so give me the Athletics on the money line. And that's it. Those are the games for Thursday in Major League Baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com, and there is a link in the description. As always, this is Romanelli. Good luck.